Matthew
Matthew McConaughey.
McConaughey. All right, all right, all right.
And we're in sync to start this one. This is going to be a good show.
Oh, yeah. I'm ready.
That was a nice move by Pipkins, taking it right to the rack himself. Wide open three, left wing, and it's good. Nylon, the dunk likes that, Matt.
A three from the right side, and it's good! The one, Pipkins, the man, yet again.
Hello and welcome to The Flex. I'm Matt St. Jean.
And this is Joe Howie.
I know we promised you a special guest on this
Santa
one.
Claus?
No, it's not Santa. I'm sorry, Joe. I think we're going to have a conversation about Santa after this episode, but that can wait. Our special guest we were going to have come on, that's going to be, had to get delayed. He will be coming on a later episode, but we'll let you know when that's coming. But we're here to talk about Providence and Butler. The Friars will be heading out to Indianapolis to take on the Bulldogs this Wednesday. It is a 6 p.m. game. It'll be on CBS Sports. Friars at 5-2, 1-0 in Big East play. Butler now 1-3 overall, 0-1 in conference play. We're going to get right into our starting five here. It's a simple question, Joe. Can Butler win?
It's a simple question with a complicated answer here because right now it doesn't look like Butler can win. They are on a 3-game skid following their only win, which was back in November, almost a month ago on Thanksgiving Eve. And even that game wasn't the most confident of victories for the Bulldogs. They bested Western Michigan 66-62, and they were trailing for a lot of that game. They really snuck away with it in the final minutes because of a couple of fouls and some good free throw shooting courtesy of Laval Jordan's coaching. But really, the Bulldogs have not looked as sharp as they have in years past this season. And, it kind of came to a point tonight when they were down 18 to Southern Illinois. So really, this Butler team is struggling. And not to mention, Aaron Thompson, their star, is hurt right now. So that's another, body blow to this Bulldogs offense that has not really been doing too hot. A bright side for them has been Chuck Harris. He's a a freshman. I have Frosh written in the notes, so that's why I said that. But he's a freshman. He has scored in double figures on back-to-back games now. Both losses at Villanova and at home against Southern Illinois. Really, this has been one bright spot in what has been an abysmal looking offense for the Bulldogs. And it's not like them because normally Laval Jordan can scrape together some sort of cohesive unit, but it kind of looks like they're falling apart here.
Yeah, this has been a rough start for the Bulldogs. You've got Jair Bolden, who was averaging 17.7 points coming into this game tonight. He's the transfer who a lot of people expected a lot from for this Butler team. He had only 6 points against Southern Illinois. Aaron Thompson, the second leading scorer, is out with an injury right now. We do not know if he will be available against the Friars. And then, like you said, you got Chuck Harris there as the true freshman out of Washington, D.C., averaging roughly 8 points per game. That's going to go up after tonight's performance. He had a lot of clutch shots late, but this is, as John Rothstein says, it's the epitome of brutality. Losing a bye game, and not just any bye game. This is in the COVID-shortened season. Butler missing a lot of time. We scramble to get an opponent, a low-tier team at the last second so you can fit in an extra game before conference play starts, and it bites you. And not only do you get the loss, but you are on less than 48 hours rest before you come in to face a Providence team that just had an 11-day break before they played on Sunday. So, my second question, how much of a factor is rest going to be in this one?
I think rest is kind of the key to the game here. Like you said, Butler is going to be on less than 48 hours rest. The Friars, we played just a day earlier. We played yesterday. So it's not like this is another 11-day break for us, but I think that buffer day will feel like an 11-day break if I'm on Butler versus if I'm on Providence. Especially you look at the type of game that Butler just played. They were trailing 18. They only lost by 3. They were emptying the tank in the second half, giving all they have. And really, it came down to a missed three-pointer, or otherwise they would have gone to overtime. And that's not to say that Providence didn't just play a hell of a game either, because we just had to push a game to overtime as well. I think the 1 day difference is going to be huge in advantage of the Friars. We got to go home and rest before traveling again. Butler remains home, but again, the less than 2 days before your next game, that's gonna hurt. And Butler also has a shorter rotation than the Friars. I mean, the Friars have a bigger bench. We play fewer guys, but when comes to shove, if a few guys are gassed or tweaked or whatever, we can dig into our depth to pull guys out and put them on the floor. Butler cannot say the same.
Yeah, and Butler right now without Aaron Thompson, you're really playing 7 guys real minutes. The Friars can extend that out as far as 9 or 10 if they need to, and really not lose out on that quality. So I think this is a Providence team that will be able to better weather that storm. I'm gonna jump down to point number 3 now. You look at the schedule between these two teams, and we're gonna go back to math class to that old transitive property. The Friars lost to Indiana by 21 points. Butler lost to Indiana by 8 points. So you do the math, you're thinking, all right, Butler should be favored in this one by 13 points. I don't think anybody's going to have Butler favored by 13, despite the fact that these two teams played very differently against the same opponent. Why do you think that is?
I think there's a couple of things you have to take a look at here. Number one for the Friars, Indiana was our second game of the season. It was after Thanksgiving, and it was on a neutral floor that was supposed to be Hawaii, but then turned into North Carolina. The Friars really didn't have any time to gel or mesh. You had a gimme game against the Fairfield Stags where your offense does great, but that's no real test of defense. That's not a power conference team. And then you go into Indiana, and we looked a little lackadaisical on defense. We weren't exactly sharp, and Indiana took advantage. They saw that we were down and sprinted out to a lead. Whereas you look at Butler, Indiana was, I believe, their third game of the season. They had that time to come together. It was after a loss at Villanova. So if you're Butler and you lose at Villanova, you're like, all right, here's another quality opponent in Indiana. Let's pick ourselves back up and attempt for a comeback victory here. So I think Butler was playing for a little more than us. I think we were still in that who are we trying to find our identity phase, whereas Butler was like, all right, we're out of time. We need to win this game. So I think it's a difference in motive in each team. And also I think it comes down to Indiana too. Indiana just played better against us than they did against Butler.
Indiana and Butler, that's a little bit of an in-state rivalry there too. Rivalry games always a little bit closer. But let's talk about that Friars identity that you mentioned. Providence starting to find it, but it's not quite there yet. I think the wing position is where you see that. A.J. Reeves, Greg Gant, Noah Horkler, Jimmy Nichols, even Chris Monroe at times, all coming in at the wing. Friars are going to need to go to their depth in this game in all likelihood. How do you think Ed Cooley is going to rotate these guys through? How do you think they match up? And what do you think we see from that grouping?
Yeah, so I think the wing position for this Friars team is one of the most intriguing and honestly noteworthy positions to talk about. So I'll start with the starting five here. I don't think Cooley's going to change it up. I think you got Bynum, Duke, Reeves, Horkler, Watson. Duke and Watson are the two constants. I don't think either of them is going to change. Watson's a beast. Duke is very talented. Those guys are locked in. Forget it. Just don't even worry about them. Bynum is working his way into his role at the one, so I think we're going to see that more of a point guard split where Duke will bring the ball up and then give it to Bynum. Whatever. He is doing his job. He's slowly creeping into a 40, 35 minute per game type of guy. Now, the 3 and the 4, the wing guard, the wing forward, whatever you want to call it. Reeves is going to start because Cooley's not going to crush his confidence, even though he's been struggling and he's been inconsistent. However, you've been seeing some quality minutes out of Greg Gant and Jimmy Nichols coming off the bench. They're bringing a lot of defensive energy. They're long. They're positionless. They basically play the same position, but they're both on the floor at the same time. Nichols is more of a 4, Gant's more of a 3. I think we're going to see a lot of Bynum, Duke, Gant, Nichols, Watson. Cooley seems to love this bigger, longer lineup, especially defensively. Those long guys are disrupting. As for Horkler, I said it in our post game podcast last night. He's been an enigma. He's a starter. He only played 13 minutes. He hasn't really done anything. I mean, he's had a few glimpses of greatness here and there, but nothing consistent, nothing to write home about. He is an enigma.
Yeah, he's been up and down, more down than up so far. Jimmy Nichols coming off of a career performance. You look at that, Jimmy Nichols played a lot because he's going up against Mamukelashvili. Butler doesn't have a guy like that. It's Bryce Golden and Bryce Enzi, smaller guys. This might be the time where Noah Horkler has more of an opportunity to show himself off, and Jimmy Nichols goes to the bench a little bit more. But we're speculating here. The only person that knows the answer to this is Ed Cooley. We're going to find out on the floor when these two teams play. And speaking of Ed Cooley, let's talk about what I think we can call the Ed Cooley special, which is having a disappointing non-conference before righting the ship and figuring things out when conference play starts. Obviously, we Friars have only won 2 in a row here, only won 1 conference game, but there's some signs. Are the Friars doing it again? Is Ed Cooley putting it all together right when Big East play starts again?
So I think, Matt, this writing of the ship right at the start of conference play this season goes back a little bit farther to the Fairleigh Dickinson game, and you saw it really start in the second half when the Friars' defense sparked offensive runs. And from there on out, you saw 2 stellar road performances at TCU and at Seton Hall. I think this righting of the ship came a little bit earlier for Ed Cooley and his team this year. There was more of a sense of urgency, with the abbreviated season. Cooley was probably like, come on, we got to get going a little bit quicker here. You don't have the courtesy of a 13-game non-conference to, settle into your identity and shake out different rotations. And I think we really had to snap into it quick. And I think the comparison I want to make here is at the start of conference play last year, the lineup that you saw on the floor, I called it the "we need to win this game" lineup, was Pipkins, Malik White, David Duke, Alpha Diallo, and Khalif Young. Now, in the past 3 games, more specifically TCU and Seton Hall, you've seen Ed Cooley go with a very similar lineup that logs a lot of minutes. Jared Bynum, David Duke, Greg Gant, Jimmy Nichols, and Nate Watson. It's a similar style that Cooley plays. We saw it a few years ago with Cartwright, Diallo, Lindsey, Bullock, and Isaiah Jackson. Cooley has the 5 guys in mind that he thinks are going to get the W, and they're the 5 guys that log the most minutes, especially in these tighter games. I think this is the sign, and there are many signs, but for me, this is the clear-cut sign that Ed Cooley is starting to right the ship. And I think a big test for us is going to be at Butler. Even though Butler's 1-3, this is going to be a huge bounce-back game opportunity for them.
I'm sure that is a relief for the ears of Friars fans. Let's go off the bench now, Joe. What fact do you have for this one?
So my off the bench fun fact is Providence on the road. This will be our 3rd consecutive road game. Historically, the Friars have played very well in Hinkle Fieldhouse, despite it being one of the most intimidating arenas in the Big East. I think, you can look back at last season when we split the season series with Butler 1-1. Butler beat us at the Dunk and we beat them at Hinkle. Both were sellout crowds. Both the energy was electric. You're looking at a much, much different environment. I mean, I think tonight Hinkle had some fans, but not nearly close to what it's been in years past, especially with COVID. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Friars play in what is essentially a quiet Hinkle Fieldhouse. I think one thing that Ed Cooley tries to prepare his teams to do is to play under pressure with a lot of road noise. I mean, I'm very interested to see how they're going to play when this building is quiet, because I think the road noise and the pressure is what makes them play well there.
Well, you saw them in the locker room championing the fact that they were able to get road wins after the Seton Hall game. So certainly a big factor there. I'm going to go to the rebounding margin. The Friars are 4-0 this season when they out-rebound their opponents. Meanwhile, Butler is the second best team in the nation on defense at allowing offensive rebounds. So teams do not collect off of their own shot. Teams don't get second chance points against Butler. That's one way that Providence has scored a lot. So that's going to be a key for the Friars. You got to find ways to scrap for those boards and get those second chance opportunities if shots aren't falling, because Providence is far from the best shooting team in the country, and that's how Butler can drag you down to their level and beat you. But just grind it out. Now we'll move down to X factors. My X factor for the Friars, we're going to the one position, Jared Bynum. Butler's defense doesn't really force turnovers. They allow a lot of assisted baskets. I think this is a great game for Bynum to show off his ability leading the offense. He just had 8 assists in his last game. His career high is 9 assists. He's come close to that a couple times now this season, and he just had 9 points. He hit his first 3 of the season. He's building some confidence. A game like this could be a breakout performance for him, and at the same time, if he plays like he has been playing, he could very well set a career high for assists and be a huge impact player, making the rest of the team around him better.
Yeah, Matt, I think this is a great opportunity for Bynum to get into a groove whilst in conference play. You went small, so I'm going to go big, and no, not big as in Santa Claus. I know I mentioned him earlier, but this is a guy who we didn't really talk about last night, but that does not mean that he did not have an impact. Nate Watson, coming off of arguably his best game as a Friar, posting a double-double against what was supposed to be his toughest paint matchup of the season in Sandro Mamukelashvili and Ike Obiagu. Other than Jeremiah Robinson Earl, the 3 guard that plays the 5, there's no other bigs in the Big East that have gotten a lot of hype. Maybe you could make the argument of Theo John and Zach Fremantle, but other than that, it's been Mamu. So Nate, who very clearly won the matchup against Mamu last night, he dominated the floor, is now going to enter Butler, where you have Bryce Enzi and Bryce Golden, who are essentially Butler's bigs. I mean, they give you a couple of different looks, but these guys log the most minutes at the 4 and the 5. Enzi comes in at 6'7", and Golden comes in at 6'9", 260. So weight-wise, Golden presents a pretty equivalent matchup for Nate. But in terms of overall size and dominance, I think Nate has this one in the bag. He's got a lot of momentum. He's had a spectacular season. Coming off of his best game as a Friar, I think there's a huge hole in the Butler defense in the paint, and I think Nate's going to just build on the momentum. I'm expecting a very big game out of him.
Well, let's make our predictions. How do you see this one going?
I think because Butler just lost in such devastating fashion at home, they are going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at us. They do not want to lose back-to-back at home. With that said, I think we are more talented than Butler, but they're going to make it much closer. This is a desperation game for them. They are down. They need to win. They need some momentum. I think Providence takes it 73-69.
I agree with you that I think Butler's gonna really come out and play with a lot of energy, but I think Providence is a far more talented team. If Aaron Thompson is not playing in this one, I'm gonna take Providence 79-67. This is a Providence offense that has been very good so far this season, and I think you're right with the X factor in Nate Watson. I don't think Butler's really gonna have an answer for him, and it's gonna open up this whole offense to play well. Butler does not have a lot of scorers. I don't see them going over 70 points against a Providence defense that has been pedestrian by Ed Cooley standards, but is still a solid defense. So give me the Friars by double digits. The Friars will play this game Wednesday night. It's a CBS Sports game, the first game on CBS Sports instead of Fox Sports this season for Providence, so shifting things up there. This will be one of 4 Big East Conference games on Wednesday. There's going to be 9 Big East teams in action as DePaul will start their season after this. It's going to be a great day for Big East basketball, so make sure to plop yourself down on the couch at 3 o'clock and just watch all the way until 11 o'clock because you're going to get a lot of great basketball. Joe will give you the final word on this game.
I mean, if you're going to be me on Wednesday, I'm going to be weeping at my desk at work because I can't watch the games until after I leave, even though I work from home, but you get the gist of it. And also, Santa Claus couldn't come on the show tonight, but that doesn't mean he didn't deliver because Wednesday is a great day for Big East basketball, so I'm very excited, Matt. I'll let you close off.
Yeah, I think that's it for us here at the Flex. Make sure to keep listening, subscribe, follow us on Twitter. And as always, thank you for listening.
Go Friars.